Hey everybody, welcome to our pre-market stream that we open up to the public every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining us this morning. Just want to give you guys a quick little breakdown on what's going to be happening today. Basically, once I'm done speaking here, Beth's going to come on, give you a little bit of a breakdown of the macro environment, basically any news events that are happening over the course of today or that happened over the course of the evening yesterday. Go through any of the bigger picture items, commodities, ETFs, etc., that make sense to be looking at. Once that's done, I'll come on. I'll give you a breakdown of the individual names that we're looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll talk about those names, build an action plan for them, and as well as go through the SPY and the FANG. Once that's done, I'll pass it over to Selpeach. He'll come on, go through the individual names that he's looking at for today, the macro environment as well, and the analyst calls that stand out to him. After that's done, we'll do a quick little recap of those individual names that I talked about, as well as the SPY and the FANG, and we'll be ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, pass over to Beth, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you, my friend. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to those of you who are joining us pre-market here, Wednesday, Spartan Trading. Also, a warm welcome to those of you who are viewing us through our live YouTube stream. We got a lot to talk about. And the reason why I say that is because, first off, we got a lot of my man crushes and gal crushes doing their thing, but basically Jamie Dimon, Tom Lee, Jim Paulson. I encourage you, if you're looking for people to follow or listen to, these are the guys that I find to be very notable and knowledgeable. Right? With that said, we do have the IMF, the World Bank, is having its meeting, and we also have the G20 going on right now. We'll see if anything comes out of that. We also have the minutes from the last Fed meeting that will come out. Normally, it's uneventful, but the only thing that might be a bugaboo from the FOMC is what they're in terms of stopping the asset buying. Okay. I don't see, look, they've been really honest about this. They haven't changed their narrative, yada, yada, yada. And I don't even, to be honest with you, I don't even think it matters anymore. We do have Barkin speaking as well, Evans, so a couple Fed heads, balance of trade, who cares? And the EIA, who cares? Okay. Let's see, there may be something that comes out of this. I doubt it, but notable, we have to pay attention because they do have communiques that could potentially be notable in terms of where they see the quantitative easing globally, how it's going to see its way through. So that's the only thing that would be concerning to me out of the G20. Okay. All right. Jobs progress still far short of Fed substantial. Good read. I encourage you to look at it. So according to this article in investing.com, the Fed says, okay, what big deal. I mean, we had a great number last Friday, but not good enough. We have to see multiple ones. I want to bring this to attention because this really shows you what a good, fantastic, spot-on CEO can do for a company. And this will be a model for years to come, I think, using her, this Mary Barra for GM. I just think it's fantastic what she's doing. Very impressive woman. And it does matter, right? So I just want to bring that to your attention. You can see that she is expanding the tentacles of GM. And I think that's obviously a big deal. Jamie, bullish. Cool. All right. Tom Lee, bullish. Yeah. So I've been talking about this for like weeks, months, that April is a kick-ass month for the SPY. We've talked about this. Tom, face ripper rally. I love it. Let's do it. Okay. Let's see what our gal Kathy's been up to. London Club. Oh, okay. ARKF. Interesting. Selling ice, trade, buying, very light, as you can see. But, hey, it's kind of cool. This beam, I missed this trade. One of my analysts told me about it, and I didn't follow it. And it's like, oh, my God. So sad, too bad. And still buying TTD, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so the more I read about this stuff, the more incompetent Credit Suisse looks. I shouldn't say that, Nomura looks, but anyways, this is how you do it. Morgan Stanley, what they did was at a discount, they shopped it, a lot of the shares to some of their asset funds. Hey, I wonder what kind of discount they gave it. I don't know. Jim Paulson, if you have the ability, please look at the video. He just was on CNBC. This is a guy who speaks my language, basically talking about the 1950, 1965, how the economy ran hot for years and years and years, low inflation, low interest rates, and he thinks potentially that this could happen, right? So Jim Paulson, please look at the CNBC video when it posts. That was just done like maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. All right, let's look at GDP in terms of going forward as a percentage of the globe. This is something that I feel is a big deal, right? And I personally feel that administrations, okay, have been dropping the ball on this, right? So here's China's GDP with purchasing power parity. You see that beautiful, 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 beautiful. Let's look at the US, down, 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 down. So China's going to lap us soon. I don't like that at all. This has to be fixed. It really has to be fixed. So we'll see how that plays out. Okay, let's look at GDP. Second quarter. 399 kind of created here, 0.7, 1.5. I think everybody's going to be pretty happy if it's like 2 to 3%, right? But as you can see here, when you've got this ended up at 6.8, they actually were pretty accurate about it the last quarter. So we'll see with the second quarter how this is going to play out. All right, flow. What's going on here? All right, so what I want to see today, all right, is money coming in again for Baba Baidu on the sweep side, okay? If not, then we're probably gonna, this was probably, I still have my trades on, I'm gonna hedge it. I'm telling you right now. So today I want to see sweeps coming in for Baba and Baidu. That's my story and I'm sticking to it, right? This Z was interesting, but it was in the money. Tesla, seeing money. So we didn't see Apple, right? Okay, we didn't, well, we did see Apple, but nothing like it has been for this week. But actually, let's look at it for the week. Let's see what's going on here. Apple, the apple of my eye. Good, Tesla, okay, fine. This Datadog was fun. I love CX. I also want to watch, guys, the semis as well. And we go from there. Okay, so this is going to be fun. SPY, nothing much. This is, we do have to be a little bit concerned about this, guys, with the put call. I think there's going to be some protection. So Spartan was talking about, he thinks that today probably will be another inside day on the market. So if you look at this, you can see here the NASDAQ, all the futures, right? They're consolidative. We'll see if we get any breakdowns. And yesterday's low, pre-market, is what I want to look at as well, okay? So that's kind of on my mind right now. I would ideally like to see it start to grind higher again, but I'm going to defer that to Spartan because he's well aware of, you know, the short-term micro trade. That's what he does. That's what he's brilliant at. Okay. All right. Let's take a look at the stock ratings. All right. And as you can see here, the only one that really caught my eye was this PSFE. All right. So, and he's a top dog. 77% accurate, and he's basically has a buy rating on this. So that's kind of interesting. There wasn't much on the insider transactions, guys. So it was pretty light. Nothing today that's been posted. So we have that. Okay, so this is something that I want to go over with you guys. It's really important because it has global implications. And so I'm developing a narrative right now that money's going to be peeling off from the United States and it's going to go overseas. That's my narrative that I'm starting to look at. And a lot of it has a function in terms of like a catch-up type trade. Okay. So this is basically industries breadth, right? So this is top 1.2% since 1990. Okay, that's great, whatever. And you can see here a little bit of sloppy choppy. And then we start to get a little bit 2 months, 3 months, but really it's 6 to 12 months out. So we start to see a little bit more money coming through. And the same thing here in the different sectors as well. And this goes back to 1991. I prefer going farther back, and you'll see that there is a chart that's going to be coming up with that. Once again, sloppy choppy, not much here, consolidative. And basically 1 year out, you see a 9.7. So that's kind of okay. All right, and here's the same thing. This is after all industries and all sector breadths are greater than 80%, first time in greater than 6 months. This is where the money is. This sort of thought process is where it really starts to come in. 100% 6 months out and 100% 1 year out. So it's a combination. So we have to be aware of that. But let's look at this in terms of the global indices. This is where I think the money is to be made on a percentage basis. Okay, so if you look at the top 2.3%, right, since 1970, you know, I like this, right? This is the MSCI World Index. Okay, so we know what the US is going to do. So what this is telling me, the other side of this coin is that globally, excluding the US, is going to start catching up. We know that, and we're going to be looking at the German indices, the DAX. We're going to be looking at the Nikkei and stuff like that, and the FTSE, the Nifty 50. This is why I think you want to be in, okay, the more of a weighting right now overseas. Okay, if it's pretty light, this is where I want to start adding more. I'm getting into the EFA. There's a couple things I'm looking at FAS, stuff like that. All right. So as you can see here, the S&P 500 at the all country breadth, right? 3 months, 6 months, 1. So regardless, 3, 6, 12 months out, the market should continue to go higher. That's the moral to the story. Once again, S&P, right? So what day are we on right now? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? On day 4, right? And here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 light. And then we got basically another couple days. Then next week, either Friday or Monday, we would see a little bit of a pullback and up, but this is just a fantastic seasonality chart, okay, on the SPY. Okay, fund flows. Money coming in, S&P, but don't forget, right? This is yesterday. The day before, it was the complete opposite. Actually, on Friday, it was like 7 billion going out. Now we see 4 billion QQQs, IWM, money coming in, not much on the IWM. I think that's going to be a mistake. I think the IWM small caps are going to start getting perky, not in April, but May plus, right? And you can see here the high yield, right? XLI, IYR, GLD. And like I said, I want to see what's going to happen with the semis today. All right. I don't think we're done on the downside, guys, yet. Okay. Soon. But the heat map is starting to look a little bit more bullish. It's LQD is not in the 90s. There were a lot of things in the 90s, right? Yesterday. We've got these little light reds, rosy kind of thing. And as you can see here, 70. So this is not optimum in terms of tailwind. Yeah, but you know, it's okay. It's not the end of the world sort of thing. XLK, and then you can see down here what's going on there. Okay. All right, let's talk about, before we do a deep dive overseas, let's take a look at what's going on here with some of the semis. All right, so this is statistical probability back test going back 15 years. This is NVIDIA. So the month of April, okay, on a risk reward basis, 8 up, 7 down. That's not something I would put money in, right? So let's take a look at AVGO now. All right. Same sort of narrative, flat to down, 6.5. The real seasonality strength doesn't come in. There's 2 quadrants of it, but for AVGO, I'm very light on it right now. I'm looking to get back into it, right? Basically at the end of May. I actually could probably do it at the beginning of May as well, right? So that's how you would use this sort of analysis. So let's take a look at the AMAT here, what's going on with it. And let's look at April 1st to end of April. Same narrative, sloppy choppy, 6 out of 11. There's no setup right now, at least for me, in terms of the semis. And that's why I was saying yesterday that I was putting SMH puts on. I've been saying that because it was in the 90s. I said it's on Monday. I said it yesterday. I did do it, and it helped offset whatever light exposure I have in like Taiwan semi, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And you can see here, Taiwan semi, same sort of narrative. It's a little bit more bullish-ish. Okay, but not what I would call a rock star. Right? Its seasonality strength doesn't really start until June. And then, guys, June, August, this is when you want to start getting into the semis. Right? This is a great, fantastic tailwind. And you don't have to really worry as much about sloppy chopping. All right, VIX. Okay, it's holding below the pivot right here, which comes in at 1873. I'm just not crazy about it on the downside here. And the reason being is because on a risk reward basis, maybe we've got, if it can get all the way back down here, right? So maybe, we're talking now about 28-30% on the downside. I mean, with the potential, basically, it's almost 50-50. You can see right here. And so that to me isn't kind of like the optimum setup for me. But Spartan looks at the VXX and it's been going down, obviously. And the reason why it goes down is because it's meant to go to zero. They're probably going to do a reverse split on it soon. You know the drill. These leveraged inverse ETFs, that's what happens. They do reverse splits. Bonds, still doing what I think it needs to do. So I was consolidated. We'll see how it keeps going on that. It's behaving very well. And you can see here in terms of on the pre-market, right? So Monday it was 144.08, yesterday 144.16. Then yesterday, this is the open, then as the day went on, it basically started to go up, rally, okay? And right now it's at, say about here, 144. And this, I think, is like 165. What is that on me? Well, it's up, you can see here, it is 166.20. Okay, no big deal there. All right, let's look at the globally. What's going on here? A little bit on 30-10, up a little bit, 5-2, down a little bit. Canada up a little bit. This is yield. And then Brazil down, right? And then all of the Eurozone, right? Down, yields are down. This France, it moves a lot, guys. This thing is up and down, 20, 15, 20% a day. It's crazy. But that's what happens when you have negative interest rates, right? Just saying. Japan, flat. Australia, down. Hong Kong, down. So this is actually a nice little tailwind for the markets globally. Yields are coming down. That's what they want. They don't want to get it crazy. And like I say, please, Jim Paulson did do a narrative where this can be going on. I'm talking years, but he was talking, and I forgot about the 50s to mid 60s into the 70s. I mean, you could be talking 15, 20 years on this rally, guys. I know, crazy, but okay. Dollar, it's really interesting. It's really struggling right here to break this down trend line. This is a monthly chart since September. So we got a little bit of a double top on it. I'm flat. I'm out of my UUP. Made some nice little money on that. And I'm going to be patient to see how things line up. I don't know, to be honest with you, if I actually would take the UUP again. And the reason being is I don't think there's enough on the upside here that would kind of pique my interest in terms of a rally. You're only talking about 1.45%. So we'll see. EFA. It's holding above the multi-year breakout. Okay. And you can even say, well, if we want to look at this one right here, that could be the one that we have to hold as well. And that's basically 75.27. I'll fix that, but you can see it's doing okay. It's trying mightily to do okay. This is the monthly as well. Okay. Will I get, to be honest with you, if this does start to break down, then I probably will buy some short dated. I'm in longer dated calls out of as a delta trade, but the delta is so low, I may not even hedge it my rule of thumb is normally it has to be the delta has to be 5 and above for me to want to hedge something, and this delta is like 1. So that's okay. Right, so let's look at the British pound. As you can see here, it's holding above the 38.2% Fed bullish, but in terms of risk reward, we're at the upper end of the quadrant. You know, this is a lovely little W. You know, I love my W's. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So I see continuation, but it has work to be done. And don't forget, if you look in terms of the FTSE as well. So a lot of things are lining up right now. Actually, let me bring up the gilts. Oh, no, well, this is a gilt against the 10-year. But I want to see this start to outperform, and it has been starting to outperform the US 10-year. So that would be capital rotation flows, right? So I think money is going to peel off, as I stated, into the European market, into Asia. I don't know about Asia, but definitely into Europe as well as the Commonwealth, the UK. Okay. This is a weekly, and it's been holding up really well, but you know, it's kind of like shit will get after pot right now, sort of thing. 69.19 for those of you who are trading it is the pivot right now on the upside. I think it does break out higher, guys. I really do. I think that this is my narrative, and I'm sticking to it, right? So here's the euro. It was basically Lagarde, right? Said, hey, what's going on here? Euro is weakening now, as you can see here. This is an extension back to 2017, guys, that the euro is holding up on, right? And starting to move higher again. So this is going to be a fascinating give and take. I personally think that currency stability is another net positive for a lot of capital flows. We saw that with China as currency revalued, as it got stronger and stronger. We saw more money come in. That's going to be the same thing on the Eurozone. As well as you saw in the British pound. Right? So here's the DAX futures, clearly one of the strongest, right? Broke out last month, fantastic, right? Lots of room on the upside here, guys. This thing can really start to boom chuckle up. Let's put some fibs on so you can get an idea of what I'm looking for. So when we have these multi-month breakout, guys, I'm looking for minimally 200%. So you're looking at 1962 on the DAX, minimum. And 25.4 to 455 as well. Okay, my time is almost up here. Spartan, are you ready, sir?
Nope, still need a minute, Beth.
Not a problem. Okay, Nikkei, let's take a peek at that. All right, basically holding extension, still looks bullish, right? This should start to break out, guys, but you know, it's really hard because the Japanese government is the largest owner of the Nikkei, of Japanese stocks. So it's like, okay, what are we going to do about that? Let's take a look at the Nifty 50. Another one. This is India, guys. I think it's going to break out, double top here, but I don't think it's going to have any problem. It's holding this monthly extension. I think it starts to rally some more, right? Okay, and here we go. This is the Chinese yuan. Consolidator. I don't think it actually breaks above this. If it does, then there's something really going on that we have to be aware of. It has been weakening as a response to what's going on with some of the Chinese names, Chinese stickers, with the ADOs, et cetera. And as you can see here, the Shanghai Composite, though, on a monthly basis is still holding up fine. All right. So this is why with some of these names, the safest ETF right now, okay, in terms of China's FXI, because that's the large cap Chinese, very few ADOs in it. And we know what happened with, you know, a lot of these asset managers as a result of Huang, what he was doing. And it's just crazy with our Keikos, you know, with Baba, Baidu, JD, yada, yada, yada. So once again, I really want to see some sweeps coming in. If not, I will be buying here, let's pull up Baba. Poly MCHI puts as well as FXI puts. Okay? Baba is still holding up fine. Right? It hasn't broken down yet, but this is the weekly, right? And as you can see here, if we take out this week's low, which comes in at 220.42, All right, that would definitely get my attention.
All right, Beth, I'm ready to go.
Okay, guys, have fun.
Alrighty, guys, morning. What's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. If you guys are new to the chat, I will post the Discord link later on when we close down the YouTube stream. So you have to be patient waiting for that. Will be posted at the end of the YouTube stream. So end of the pre-market session, basically. All right, so let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. A couple different things that we're looking at. Pre-market tickers on watch. Roku, BYND, DKNG, TMDX, FGen, and JWell. By the way, this XL is gapping up nicely here. Keep an eye on it. Anyways, Roku, continuation. Gap up from last day's momentum. It's not gapping up much, but it is gapping up. BYND, Beyond Meat shares are trading higher after the company announced the opening of its plant-based manufacturing facility in China. DKNG, Como, New York will legalize mobile sports betting. Stocks gapping up slightly on that. TMBX, Transmedic late Tuesday announced FDA advisory committee panel voted 12-5 for the benefit of its OCS heart system outweighs the risks. So it's gapping up on that. FGen, these guys are gapping down as the CO admits it manipulated the safety data. Big no-no there. And then JWell gapping up from continued momentum from last day's move in the pre-market or the after hours session there. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two we're going to be looking at is Roku and BYND. Quickly, just take a look at the SPY. Obviously, you can see that's getting a little bit of a pullback here in the pre-market. We'll talk about that. You can see the uptrend on the hourly did break. But again, we'll cover that in just a second. All right, Roku and BYND. Let's take a look at these two names. So Roku was gapping up until the market just pulled back there, which is another reason why I wanted to show you. But either way, should have a decent amount of range from last day's move today, even if it does pull back. So we are basically sitting or testing the 50 MA to the upside, pulling back below it right now. Let's take a look at where this thing's got room to. Okay. There we go. All right. Levels are good. Let's take a look at what we got going on today here. So we do have that 50 MA rejection, 363. Basically near last day's high. Okay. So pivot to the upside today, guys, is going to be this 360.78 level. If this level is able to hold, we do have room for continuation where it's 363.94. That level breaks. 371.71 can be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards the 350.293 to that 348.02 level on the downside. Overall on a Roku, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a little bit of a pullback. I think we can see some basing at the lower end of supports, then a curl back to the upside. Just because it's got rejected at that 50 MA on the daily there, it is a little bit extended into that level. So I think it needs to come in a little bit, and then we can look for that basing to kick in and look to take the name on the long side. So that is Roku. Let's take a look at BYND. So beyond here. beyond a couple points, gap up to the upside. So let's see where we got room to. Okay, get last day's high labeled. DMA. Which is about 141.74. Looks like this can be a little bit of a tight range here. Keep an eye on that XL, guys. It is squeezing in the pre-market. 145.24. Okay. So pivot to the upside today on BYND, the 136.64 spot. If this level is able to hold, we do have room towards 141.71. That level breaks, we can see further continuation on the upside into that 145.24 area. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 132.55 to 129.86 on the upside. Overall, going to be leaning bullish on BYND, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Basically, I want to see continuation to that 50 MA, which is going to be that 141.71 spot, and then we'll see if we can break through it and get a further continuation push to the upside. Looks pretty good in general on the daily, but that 50 MA is going to be that magnet and big resistance point for now. DKNG and TMDX next two. Let's take a look at these. It's got that head and shoulders that is currently being tested on DKNG here. Let's take a look at this thing intraday. All right, 64.68 pivot to the upside today. If this level is able to hold, we do have room towards $67. If that level breaks, 68.98 can be tested. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards the 62.09 spot. If that breaks, 60.57 support will be tested on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of DKNG. I don't think it's going to have a ton of range to the upside, but it does have room to that 67 level if the pivot holds. So what I'll be looking for is a pivot hold and continuation push to the upside today. So that's DKNG. Let's take a look at TMDX. So what do we got? We got a bounce off the 50 MA from last day. Push back towards the last day's highs because of that, which we will label. I'm actually going to look a little bit above 41.17. That goes there. Support, resistance, and look a little bit higher. Okay. Martesino guys just had NFT news come out. All right, TMDX 3801 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. They do have room towards 4116 to the 4359 spot. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 3472 to 3141 on the downside. Overall on TMDX, going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a hold of the pivot. Continuation push to the upside today. Do like the chart. It does look good for continuation higher. So that's what I'll be looking for there. Continuation push to the upside today. So that is TMDX. That is DKNG. Let's take a look at the next two. FGen and JWell. Alrighty. So FGen, JWell, let's take a look. FGen, obviously, big gap down there. JWell basically giving back most of its move this morning. I think I might change JWell to XL because we're quite a bit more interested in this name. So that's what I'm going to do, actually. XL. Okay, so FGen, let's take a look. Stock's gapping down. We're at about where are we? 24.35. Okay, down here. Do like these types of names. Mid caps that get big, that have big range, usually great vehicles to trade intraday. Yep. Okay, sweet. So 25.90 going to be the pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. We do have room towards the 22.69 spot. That level breaks. We got further continuation into the 19.28 resistance, or sorry, support on the downside. Able to hold, we look for a pushback on FGen towards 29.31. If it does reclaim that, it could push towards 33.24 resistance on the upside. Overall on FGen, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side out the gate, looking for a continuation pull to the lower end support levels. And then I want to see some basing down there and look for a little bit of a bounce. So that's what I'm thinking on that. Let's take a look at the last one here, which is XL, which nice continuation gap up. Our August calls should be up nicely today. 920 labeled. I love this daily chart, by the way. Tons of room. Reminds me a lot of what RMO looked like before the move yesterday. Same sort of ticker as well. Just gonna move that. $9.20 pivot to the upside today. Level holds. We got room towards $9.59 to $10.05. That level breaks, $11.05 will be tested. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to $8.80 to $8.22 on the downside. Overall on XL, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. Does need to hold, break and hold above that 920. That's going to be the key for a continued squeeze to the upside. So far, though, nice move in the pre-market. I do think we can see continuation higher. Just a matter of getting back above the pivot point for that continuation. So that's FGen. That is Excel. All righty, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. So what's going on with the market? We did break that uptrend on the hourly, as we can see here. I'll flip it over to the hourly, makes it a little bit easier to look at. Let's take a look where the extension is on the daily here. Let's see where that gap fill area is, 403 basically, 402.95. One sec, guys. Okay, same pivot as yesterday then. 406.04, guys. Pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. We got room towards 404.90 to 404.03 on the downside. Able to hold, we look for a push back towards 406.97 to 408.35 on the upside today. Overall on the market, going to be leaning on the probably bullish neutral side from here. I think we may get a little bit of a pull this morning, and then I think it's going to hold the range and continue to stay range bound today and be more consolidative inside day on the market. Market is still a little bit extended to the upside, but it's done quite well the last 2 days holding that extension. So I do think it's going to continue to hold within that range. We'll see what happens. But yeah, those are the levels for now. All right, let's take a look at Apple. I swear Apple has a misprint candle every day, literally every day. So quite annoying, but whatever. Is what it is. Okay, so Apple's pivot to the upside today is going to be that 126.98 resistance. Levels able to break. We do have room towards the 128.56 spot. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 124.95 on the downside. Overall, looking at Apple on the daily, it is holding, or it is extended, sorry, to the upside into a little bit of a range resistance as well as double top in the short term. I still think it does have room and needs to retest its 50 MA to hold up. So I'll be looking for a little bit of a pull towards that 124.95 level. So I'll be leaning a little bit on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a pull back into that area of support. And then if it holds up, we can look for a continued push higher. So that is Apple. Let's take a screenshot of that. And let's take a look at Amazon. So Amazon also extended to the upside, guys. Into some resistance here. I am going to label above level just in case. All right, pivot to the upside today, guys. 3208.39. This level is unable to hold. We do have room for continuation lower towards 3172.25. Able to hold. 3249.55 will be tested. Then that 3280.9 level on the upside. It'll have room too. Overall on Amazon, going to be leaning a little bit on the bearish. Neutral side out the gate, looking for a pullback into the pivot. We'll see if it can hold up. If it doesn't, it does have quite a bit of room lower. But it is extended to the upside as well on the daily into a range resistance level. So I do think it needs to get a slight pullback off of that level, and then we can look for continuation higher. So that is Amazon. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix as well, extended to the upside. Okay. All right, 545.89. Sorry, 545.85. Pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. We got room towards 537.14 to 530.57. Able to hold. Look for pushback towards 55.02 on the upside. Overall on Netflix, can be leaning a little bit on the bearish neutral side out the gate this morning, looking for a slight pullback towards 537.14 area-ish. And then I think we can see some basing kick in. So that'll be Netflix. Let's take a look at Facebook here. Let's take a look at Facebook. Another name extended to the upside. Hell of a move. On this thing on the daily, let me just quickly flow back the 10 minutes. There we go. All right, 307.66 pivot to the upside today. This level's unable to hold. We do have room back towards the 303.58 spot. If it's able to hold, we look for a pushback towards the recent range high, 311.37. Going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side as well. Out the gate this morning, looking for a little bit of a pullback, fill the gap. And then I think we can see some basing and a push higher. So that's going to be the key there on Facebook. All right, last but not least, guys, let's take a look at Google. And then we'll look at the VXX real quick as well. Google. Oops, there we go. Levels from yesterday labeled. All right, pivot to the upside today. 2201. This level is able to hold. We do have room for continuation towards 2228, then 2245. Unable to hold 2173 will be tested on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Google today, looking for a consolidative move and possibly a push through that resistance to the upside. Definitely a strong looking FANG name still after that 1 month consolidative breakout. And then last but not least, guys, the VXX. Oops. Pivot to the upside will be 1059. This level is able to hold. We got room towards 1105. Unable to hold 1021 on the downside. So keep an eye on the VXX for SPY and market direction. Essentially, that's what we're going to be using it for, as always. So keep an eye on. There has been divergences the last couple of days where the VIX has been moving up with the market. So keep that in mind as well. Anyways, that's a SPY, that's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. I'm going to go ahead and pass over to South Beach while he goes through the names that he's looking at, and we'll do a quick little recap once he's done right before the open. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Morning, guys. Wednesday, hump day. Let's see what's going on. There's really a lot of stuff out today and a lot of cross currents. So let's talk about some of them, okay? All right, so you got the bond market pretty much unchanged at 1.669. I only look at the 10-year, and then I look at the relationship between the 10-year and everything else, because pretty much things are keyed against that. So it's up 0.103, not too much. And overseas rates are a little lower. They're talking about a lockdown and extending it or what have you. But I think that's, just a temporary situation that they're looking at. Let's look at commodities. We have oil up just 0.5%, right? And let's look at copper. It's down 1.7%, still holding above 4, top of the trading range. No reason for concern. Okay, in the currency market, US dollars up against North America. It's up against Chinese currency. It's up against the Japanese currency. And the euro is finally getting some steam. I think, how the markets look out 6 months, and we know Europe is going to be a lot better than it is today, 6 months from now. So that currency is pretty strong, and I anticipate it stays strong. In the crypto world, Bitcoin's down, about 3% more or less. So I sold my Bitcoin yesterday when China announced that they're going to launch their own currency, digital currency. So I just wanted to see how that fell into place. And so I'm just watching. I don't know what will happen with that, but this thing is so jittery. I didn't want to say stick around to find out. So I just took my chips off the table, see where things fall out, and I'll revisit when I think they get to a level that's a little more attractive. Let's put it that way. Okay, the global markets, let's see what we got. We got FTSE up 0.5%. We got DAX down 0.25%, which is really very little. And Nikkei hasn't moved. China's very flat. Everything's flat, okay? And you got a VIX that's pretty low, okay? So it feels to me like something's going to happen. I don't know why. I just feel like they sucked all the volatility or a lot of the volatility out of the market, and people are clamoring to, well, traders anyway, would love to see some more volatility. So I'm staying small. The only thing I really have a hefty position is in Viacom, which I told you guys yesterday. I thought that was the last of the selling. And I think the stock is stupid cheap. And they took, they took it too far on the upside and they took it too far on the downside. And at this level, yesterday when basically Credit Suisse threw in the towel, it felt like anyway, I thought it was a no-brainer. That's the one I really keyed on. DISCA is probably okay, but I went to the three names that had the secondaries, right? Because I knew that, or I thought that, that was the exhaustion selling. So, and I thought the cream of the crop there was Viacom. So that's the one I really went with heavy. And I'm still in it. I haven't sold any. So we'll see what happens with that. And Dan Niles was just on TV and he says he thinks the stock could possibly double. So that's interesting. Let's see what else. There was no news out of China that I saw overnight. And so we threatened to pull out of the Olympics. I think that's just a bunch of people talking. The virus, I think the US is doing a fantastic job. I've said that for the last week or so. Let's look at Mr. Market from yesterday. So you had, what was weak? You had semis weak, right? You got materials were weak, and you had pharma weak. And on the plus side, you had high PE tech. The entertainment stocks were strong, led by Viacom pretty much. The Chinese stocks had a good bounce, and EV and solar were strong. Okay, that was yesterday. Okay. So what came out today? So you saw Jamie Dimon. I didn't get a chance to read his letter. It's 66 pages, which I will try to read tonight, see what he has to say. But the crux of it, according to all the talking heads on TV, was basically, and in Bloomberg and so on, that he thinks the economy will continue to boom through 2023. Okay, deficit spending, exaggerated savings in everybody's account, which I talked about yesterday. I think there's $4 or $5 trillion that individuals have in banks. What else? More QE, successful vaccine, all these things he hit. Well, you can't really speed read it during Rob, but you can read it pretty quickly, but it wouldn't take me 5 minutes. Not much more though, but I didn't have the time. Anyway, I will read it for sure. And so he's pretty bullish, and he's saying that inflation can also run at 3 to 4%. So that'll change a lot of things about which stocks do well and which stocks don't. In a inflationary environment, keep in mind that these tech stocks are going to face a headwind. And so this really affects group rotation going forward. And so I think that's something I have to really think about. But my initial inclination would be to play these, normal economically sensitive stocks, stocks that'll do well when the economy's coming out of this stuff, and to, stay away from some of these tech names. That's what Dan Niles kind of said just now when he was on TV, if any of you saw it. He's going to be the reopening plays versus the pandemic beneficiaries. And so that's kind of in line. And with inflation running hot, I think tech could not, probably won't be the leadership group. Additionally, he said something really interesting, Dan Niles did. He says this is the most overvalued tech has ever been. I'm not sure about, I see his assumption and the way he got there. Basically, he took the market cap of the whole market and divided it by GDP, and it's 1.8 times now. And when we had that, tech bubble, it was at 1.4 times, and normally it's 0.8 times. But I don't know. He didn't talk about interest rates in light of that number, and so that's my concern. But he's saying this, and he's a pretty smart guy. I listened to what he has to say. They also had James Paulson on today, who's been dead right about the market, and he thinks we get to 4,400 easy. He just doesn't know when the correction's going to come. He does think there'll be a correction. I think so too. The timing of the correction is a little weird, but he thinks S&P earnings are going to be 200. So at a 20 PE, which is probably kind of sort of average for the last 20 years, that's 4,000 on the S&P. So that should be pretty. We're there now. So maybe that's the reason for the VIX being so low. We're kind of like shot our load, so to speak. Tom DeMark was on. He's an economist, a technician, a really great one. Kramer was talking about his forecast last night, and he thinks there's probably 2 or 3 days more left in this rally, and then we'll get a little bit of a correction. And then the thing that he's looking at is 3909 has to hold on the S&P. His initial target was 33,959 on the Dow. So we're practically there, right? So I don't know. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of balls up in the air. Okay, and I think trading ranges are pretty tight, and volatility is really low. So it's an interesting time. I'm kind of sort of glad, like my vision went south during this period, as opposed to when we were printing money a few weeks back. Right, full money goes into queues. Okay, so that's interesting. What else is going on? You have this Coinbase IPO coming. So what was it? Davidson thinks the stock is worth $400. I think the current valuation at the initial $195 number was like something like $100 billion. And if they're right, then it's 200 billion. I just don't understand these numbers, to be honest with you, because you have the ICE. Okay, the ICE is an exchange. It's very different. It's got a 62 billion market cap. Coinbase market cap could be double that or triple that. And what I'm thinking to myself is, what's to prevent the ICE from going into this business, or any of the other exchanges for that matter? I mean, if you look at the GBTC ETF, it traded at a big premium for a really long time. Okay, now it trades at a discount. These guys are making money on the spread in Bitcoin, and I just don't see that spread not narrowing as it goes into a more liquid market. And so I think these are peak earnings, and I think the valuation is nuts up. I really do. And I don't know how the spread doesn't narrow. I mean, like, look at any market, okay? If you look at the way stocks used to trade, when we traded 30 million shares a day, the spread was like 25 cents, and commissions were like an eighth, okay? Then they started trading a lot. Now they trade in pennies, and the commissions are zero, okay? When you look at bonds, which traded, they didn't have they didn't print them. The upstairs brokers were literally stealing $2, $3, $4, $5 a trade, and then they became listed, and they have trade trackers, and the spreads went away. That's going to be no different than what's going to happen in Coinbase. Okay, so these earnings that they're making, I think they're insane. I think they can't last, and I think they're really smart to go public right now. And if I had stock in this thing, I'd sell it so fast your head would spin. Okay, let's see what what's her name did. Kathy has been buying this Trimble navigation hand over fist, guys. They bought another 760,000 yesterday. They bought a bunch the day before. So she's been buying the crap out of this one. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot to key on as far as that's concerned. You saw this SPAC, what's it called? Altimeter bought Grab, which is a, I think they're like a ride-hailing company in Indonesia. I don't know. Anyway, it's a ride-hailing company, and the valuation was like, I don't know, 30 billion or some crazy number like that. They're doing a huge pipe, etc. Okay, Singapore. Thanks, John. So I think that's interesting. I don't know what's his face is doing, Ackman, but he's been sitting here with a pile of cash for a really long time, and it's getting irritating. But there are some SPACs that are good. It's just ciphering, sifting through them to find the good ones. And I'm picking my spots. I bought a little bit of two of them, if you guys are interested, just as toe in the water, CMLF and CMIIU. Okay, let's go to research, see what's doing there. Okay. This CPNG, which a lot of you guys have asked me about, finally, JP Morgan initiated with a neutral target right here, 48 bucks. No real feeling on that one. It's just it seems to me like when I read about it, it's a fantastic company. I'm just not sure about the valuation. What else was there? Let's see. Barclays initiated a bunch of banks. The only bank they really didn't like that's noteworthy, in my opinion, was the CMA. But you know what? That's often the case. A lot of guys don't like this stock for some reason. Okay, so they didn't like that one. Casey was downgraded on price by Raymond James. That's never a reason to get involved in a stock, in my opinion. VERV. Morgan Stanley went from an equal weight to a sell with a target of 18. Be careful because it's a low volume name. I am not going to trade it. Okay, and if I said VERV, it's VERX. I just read it wrong. Yeah, VERX. Okay. And what else was there? One other one was downgraded, this BFAM to a sell. Target raised 153 to 156. Stock's 178. That is also Morgan Stanley. Okay, so those are the downgrades. There wasn't much there. Okay, as far as let's look at stuff that I thought was worthwhile here. RBC initiated run with an outperform, a target of 81. Okay, stock's 56, and this group is going to be getting money from the administration because this bill that they're trying to put through is pretty green, right? So that's interesting. This one I thought was really interesting call, and it's really not in my wheelhouse, but this company, AZRE, RBC put a $42 target, stock's 28 bucks. It's solar power plants in India. I thought that was an interesting call. I mean, that's a big target for that stock. Stock looks like it could turn on the daily, so I think that's interesting. The other one also from RBC, they like this AGRX, initiated outperform target 8, and Perceptive is in the stock. They are the largest holder. I think Perceptive is pretty smart guys. So that one I thought was worthwhile. And last but not least, also from them, VTRS. This was what's her name? Whitmer. She talks in Barron's Roundtable. She picked this stock. Then the stock fell out of bed. That Barron's, what do they call it? Barron's, when the experts pick their stocks at the beginning of the year, Roundtable. Anyway, she picked this stock. She's a really good stock picker. She's on the board of directors of Berkshire Hathaway. And she had the stock got creamed. They're initiating it with an outperform target 23, stocks 1380. I think that one may make some sense as well. Okay. Barclays, when they went over the bank stocks, they, rejiggered a lot of targets. They raised the target in Goldman to 420, stocks 320. JP Morgan to 187, stocks 152, and Morgan Stanley to 98, stock 79. There were a lot of changes, but I can't go through them all. But those were the highlighted ones. And the other thing that they said, which kind of I thought was interesting, is Square. They reiterate the outperform. They take it the target from 320 to 330, stocks 230, and they say they have international opportunities. So I think that's interesting too. For calls, I use briefing and the fly, and I get the research sent to me from my buddies who work at these firms. So I get them from 3 places. Okay. Okay. What else was in the research? Deutsche Bank likes DIS Discovery. They have a 60 target, stocks 43. That's one of the names that was in that debacle with the hedge fund that they had a smash, right? I think I've been watching this stock also. Benchmark initiates EBS with a buy target 150, stock 79. These are the guys that were producing that bad batch of vaccine, and Biden administration made J&J oversee it, and stock's been getting punished. This is a good company, guys, and they're just kicking the crap out of it. I'm waiting for a level to buy it. When it stops going down, I would like it to go sideways for a little bit, but I think this is a stock we can have on our radar. I think there's a lot of upside in it, and I'm hoping it gets down to that 100-day, the 100-week number at 70, and then I would pounce. Okay, that's what I'm really hoping, but keep an eye on that one. That's it. I'm out of time. Okay, so I'm going to give it back to Spartan. IPOs, there's 2 coming, and there's 7 secondaries, and that's pretty much it. So a lot of stuff to think about, and hopefully we'll take all that knowledge and make some money today. Spartan, it's all yours.
All righty, thank you, South Beach, guys. What's going on, morning? All right, I'm just going to quickly run through the pre-market tickers that we have done today. Quick little recap, guys. Here's the action plan if you want to pause the YouTube stream and just give that a read. There you go. There's that. All the charts are posted, as well as in the options section. There you go. Okay, let's take a look at what we got going on this morning, guys. Pre-market tickers on watch: Roku, BYND, DKNG, TMDX, FGen, XL. Roku continuation to the upside from last day's momentum. It did pull back a little bit, but bouncing. The market, BYND, shares are trading higher after the company announced its opening of its plant-based meat manufacturing facility in China. DKNG, New York will legalize the mobile sports betting, gapping up on that. TMDX, late Thursday, FDA Advisory Committee panel voted 12-5 that benefits of OCS heart system outweighs the risks. Stocks gapping up on that. FGen, Fibrogen, stock is trading lower after the CEO admits manipulated safety data for their Roxa, whatever their drug is. And then XL gapping up a continuation from last day's move. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint. Intraday. So what do we got? Roku and Beyond first. Rip through these charts here. Roku, guys, gapping up slightly. 360.78 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold towards 363.94 to 371.71. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback to 352.93, support to 348.02 on the downside. Overall on Roku, going to be leaning a little bit on the bearish side out the gate, looking for a pull basing to kick in at the lower end support, and then a push to the upside there, just because it's a tad bit extended on the upside on the daily. Beyond 136.64 pivot level holds in towards 141.71 to 145.24. Unable to hold. 133.55 to 129.86 will be tested. Overall and beyond, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. DKNG and TMDX. DKNG 64.68 pivot. This level is able to hold. We do have room towards $67. That level breaks. 68.98 can be tested today. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 62.09. If that level breaks, we're going to see the 60.57 level on the downside tested. Overall on DKNG, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation grind higher as long as that pivot can stay intact this morning. TMDX pivot 38.01. This level is able to hold in towards 41.16 to 43.59. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 34.72. If that level breaks, we see further continuation lower to 31.41 on the downside. Overall on TMDX, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today. Looking for a hold of the pivot, continuation push higher. Let's take a look at FGen. Let's take a look at XL. Someone's speakers are on there. All right, FGen 2590 pivot to the downside today. Levels unable to hold towards 2269 to the 1928 level on the downside. Able to hold, we look for a push back towards the 2931 to 3324 on the upside. Overall on FGen, going to be leaning on the bearish side today. Looking for a continuation lower, then I do think we will see some basing at the lower end supports. XL, last but not least, of the individuals, 920 pivot to the upside today. Level holds towards 959 to 1005. If that level breaks, we can see 1058. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 880 to 822 on the downside. Going to be leaning bullish on XL if it can break and hold above that pivot point to the upside. So that's FGen, that's XL. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. Market pivot to the downside today. I'm actually going to type this up. SPY, okay, 406.04 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. Room lower into the 404.90 support. Breaks, we see the 404.03 level tested. Pivot holds, room higher into the 406.97 resistance. Breaks, we see the 408.35 tested. Going to be leading on the bearish neutral side out the gate. Been looking for basing. And if you guys don't follow me on Twitter on the YouTube stream, guys, I do live tweet the SPY and the FANG SPY the entire day. So if you're interested in seeing more of that, you can definitely give me a follow. Spartan Trading. All right, let's take a look at Apple. Oh, where did you go? There you are. So I do think the market's going to be range bound, just to reiterate. Apple, pivot to the upside today, or downside 126.98, unable to hold, towards 124.95, able to hold 128.56 will be tested. Going to be leaning bullish out the gate on this one as well, looking for a pull into the support, and then we can look for basing to kick in. A little bit extended to the upside. Amazon, same thing. Pivot to the upside is the 3208.39 level, though. That level is unable to hold, towards 31.72, able to hold 32.49 will be tested. It's going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side of Amazon, looking for a little bit of a pull to the downside here, and then basing to kick in. Let's take a look at Netflix. Pivot to the downside today, 545, levels unable to hold towards 537. It's the 530.57 level, able to hold, look for a push back towards the 555.02 level on the upside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning a little bit on the bearish neutral side out the gate as well, a little bit extended to the upside on the daily. 307.66 Facebook pivot, unable to hold towards 303.58, able to hold through 311, sorry. 37 will be retested. Overall on Facebook, going to be leaning a little bit bearish as well out the gate, looking for a slight pullback towards the 303.58, and then we'll see if that gap fill can hold up, extended to the upside as well. Google pivot to the upside is going to be the 2201.88 level holds towards 2228 on the upside to 2245, unable to hold 2173 will be tested. Leaning bullish neutral on Google today, looking for bullish consolidation and slight grind higher, see if we can actually break out to the upside. Last but not least, guys, the VXX pivot is going to be the 1059 spot, unable to hold towards 1021, able to hold. We do have room back towards 1105, and we use the VXX for market direction. So that's what I'll be looking at it for. Anyways, that's it, guys. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream first time, you have any questions, you can go to spartantrading.com.